Betsy and Thomas here for the American Intelligence Media, where we are decoding the Trump tweets today. And I want to make a note that I look on Twitter today, and Trump has reached 53 million followers. So congratulations, POTUS. When we started our campaign at the beginning of the month, which is Trump Twitter Awareness Month, and we ask everyone to at least check the tweets daily, I've noticed an increase of 1 million subscribers. I won't say that that's us, but it is something to note as we go forward. We're going to be hoping that his numbers increase. Okay, the first tweet is June 20th, and it's a picture of POTUS, and right above it, he says, had a great meeting with the House GOP last night at the Capitol. They applauded and laughed loudly when I mentioned my experience with Mark Sanford. I have never been a fan of his. And to follow our tweets, please open up the link in the YouTube box and you can follow along.
I was looking at CNN today, and these paid announcers they have who don't even know what they're saying. This is astounding. Folks, we've said it before, but I want to underscore. If you listen to CNN, every word is a lie. That's a fact. I sat there and watched this for a while, and I couldn't find one single speck of truth of anything that was being said by anyone, a guest, commentators, whatever. This first tweet, let's just make clear what this is. He gathered the House GOP together, not only to talk about immigration, but to say, guys, you do know this is now the biggest deal. You know, you blew it with the DACA. You came too early before the election. If you want to win the midterms, it's about immigration. We can't blow this. We can't let Paul Ryan, the rhino sitting next to me with the big horn on his head, we can't let him lead us down a path of perdition, which is going to lose us votes. We have to go with something that must have the pillars in it. And I know you're not going to go with that. And so what we should make sure to do is what I have already done, which I wrote an executive order to enforce the law. Of course, CNN says that he created this law. He didn't create the law. He is enforcing the law. Zero tolerance, that just means we're going to enforce the law. No new laws were made. Okay, so the lies are just astounding. So what this is this is the most important, crucial factor. It's the key. It's the linchpin for the entire election. What comes out of this immigration issue right here, right now. So what did the executive branch do for the Republican Party? He wrote an executive order that looks so beautiful that they're having trouble bashing it, but they will, then they are. But, you know, basically what it's saying is, I am the hero, anyone who looks into it. So now let's just make clear what's really going on. Republicans, rhinos especially, Republican in name only, they want people crossing the borders for the cheap labor, and the Democrats want it for the vote. Both sides want no immigration law.
And then there's a whole other faction that wants them for human trafficking.
We'll go into that in a second, and you're absolutely right, and we can underscore that and go back to our research on it, which will prove it, which already has proven it. But Pelosi says, now that Trump says, you know, oh, well, let's put the families together and let's get rid of that loophole, which nobody ever wanted to address, which is the 20-day loophole that you can only hold that child for 20 days. Well, if you don't, first off, no children are being separated from their family at the border. Let's just make perfectly clear what is happening here. If they had proof that that's their family, they weren't separated. The only people separated are those who don't have proof. And if you came up for asylum, legal asylum, you would have brought proof that that's your child now, wouldn't you? Otherwise, almost all those people are being human trafficked. Either, what has the cartel said? Mexico just said, if you don't do what we say, we're not going to let people through the cartel lands across the border.
Well, it's a ticket. If you want a ticket into the United States, you need to bring a child.
Yep. Because
then we use that child and traffic that child in a number of ways. And we don't need to worry about anybody complaining about that lost child because you've already kidnapped that child for us.
And in the families that weren't catch and release in the day of Obama, those children were simply put in planes and sent off to foster homes, and they never saw their parents again, if those were their parents. And so the same things are going on. It's actually much better now than it was before, and it's getting better all the time. But what this is the very crux of who's going to win the midterm. And if they listen to Trump, who just basically leaped forward with the banner and the flag and said, here, follow me. And everyone is like, clap, clap, clap. Didn't lose any Republicans. Didn't lose any of his base with what he just did. Did nothing more than enforce the law. See, his base has the ability to think things through. And if you think it through, you will know the truth of the matter. And those who are just simply emotionally filled with animus and vitriol towards the president, they can't see they're blinded.
They're incapacitated in their thinking, so they're not going to get there to truth.
Now, what is this pointing at? This is Trump laughing at them and saying, GOP leadership, Republicans, look what I did with one tweet to Mark Sanford. Took him down, brought up a person who won simply because she said she was for MAGA, came out of nowhere, and an unexpected, almost unbelievable upset.
But that is about the power of the people. When we have his back, he can be a strong leader and speak with a single voice of we the people.
Absolutely. And as the leader of the party, if they get on board, he could do miracles. What he's saying here is, I know you Republicans, especially Paul Ryan and others, you don't believe in my 4 pillars for immigration, for securing the border, for stopping sanctuary cities, sanctuary states. You really don't believe that there should be new immigration laws passed in the Congress which rules that domain. And you won't help me guard the border. And there's a war on our southern border. And there's no other words that can be used for it. If they don't, on the news, recognize there's a war. And the war can be won with a tweet, in some cases politically, which we see here with Mark Sanford. So what he's saying to the Republican leadership is, y'all better get on board with me, because if I tweet against you, you're gone.
Yeah, that's for sure. Now, the next tweet this one is one I know you're going to go off on. So it has a picture of the president, and scrolling below him is the ABC banner that says, Manafort pleads guilty to 5 charges of manslaughter. And Trump has tweeted, look what fake ABC News put out. I guess they had it prepared from the 13 angry Democrats leading the witch hunt. Stop the bias.
That was put out because Trump was winning the day with his executive order, so they had to put something out that would go into the news that could then be echo chambered into insanity. But they got caught. It was supposed to just scroll by and go into what is now the news control agency created by Google and is being used in all the news agencies. What scrolls at the bottom of the screen is now the only acceptable news. And if you do not agree with what scrolls at the bottom of the screen, then you are no longer going to be considered true news. You will be fake news. Well, what does this mean? This means they don't have control of their own news. They don't write their own news. And as we always point out, they're not real investigative journalists. And they don't do any news. They just read. And what's at the bottom of the screen, they'd read that too. Do you think they'd even check? Do you think a single pundit would check if they were told to read that Paul Manafort pleads guilty to 5 cases of manslaughter?
No, you'd hear it on all the channels.
It would be
heads.
Repeated a billion times, and afterwards no one would take anything back. They did this time because they got caught, and it was in print. But this is what we told you. This is Google's digital network initiative, which is basically going to be controlling all news and stopping anything that doesn't agree with what is in print. Everyone on the news that is a talking head is reading the Associated Press reports. There are no names on who wrote those reports. When the pictures come through, there's no confirmation those are real. No photographers get a byline. No one gets a byline. Unheard of. No, it's being written by a certain group of people that controls the entire narrative of the news. So Trump is in a war with them, and until he defeats them, or until they simply fold up shop, which a couple of them have, and more will, and would be folding up sooner if it wasn't for Facebook saving CNN and the CIA and DOD saving Amazon, and all these big monopolies would all fold without we the people's money. So what we have here is simply the fact that the news is nothing more than lying, stinking propaganda that is attacking a sitting president. This is unconstitutional because these are lies, and Decency in Broadcasting Act disallows this. But it says it can't happen.
If people weren't so awake, and people are really awake now, in the past that would have scrolled by, and pretty soon it would have been in the narrative. in all the channels, and you wouldn't have bothered to check on it, and you would believe it. So pay attention, folks. The next tweet is one that says, "Don't worry, the Republicans and your president will fix it." And it is a video, short video, 24 seconds actually, of some talking points of Hillary and Obama. And I think Clinton's in there. I saw this the other day, talking about what they would do on the border. And basically, it's not what they say they would do today.
It's Clinton's regulations. It's Bush's enforcement, Obama's enforcement. Comes to Trump and they say he created it. That's how big the lies are. That's a quadruple lie. So what he's saying is, listen to them say that the children, when one of them, Hillary, says the children cannot cross the border. We can't even allow them to cross. We just send them back. Oh, send them back into the cartel zone? The drug cartel zone, Hillary, that they just came across, and it's amazing they're still alive. We're just going to send them back. That's what she said. You have Clinton, and you have Obama, and you have Bush all saying the same thing. If we don't have a border, we don't have a country, blah, 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 blah. Everything Trump is saying, they said, but Trump is then considered evil for saying it.
Because they knew they were just talking out of the side of their mouth. What they were doing was something totally different.
Pure rhetoric to make sure that the uniparty, both Republicans and Democrats, were pleased with what Pelosi says. She's no longer angry that the children are separated from the parents. Oh no, she's angry that anyone crossing the border ever gets incarcerated. In other words, she is a lawless pig who is saying, take everything that we have, that citizens fight for, die for, pay their taxes for, and we have no borders. And we basically, that's right, there are no citizens. Everybody's a citizen who can get to the poll and vote Democratic.
Okay, next one. Just landed in Duluth, Minnesota. 2 events planned. Looking forward to them and being with Pete Stauber and his wonderful family. Followed by another tweet. So sorry, people wanting to get into the already packed arena. I love you all. And it was jam-packed. And it was such a difference from the last time I saw Hillary speak, where she hobbled up some steps to do a graduation ceremony for 8th graders.
For 8th graders.
Yeah.
That's pretty historic, I think, right there.
Right there. So,
I wonder how she did with that. Probably no one booed her because they didn't know who she was.
And then followed again with, "Thank you, Duluth, Minnesota. Together we're making America great again." Is there anything that you wanted to say before we moved into the next tweet?
Only that there were 9,000 people in there, stuffed, packed, 10,000 people on the outside, and he's apologizing. And that's what happens everywhere he goes. He's a superstar, a rock star, and for the Republicans, he's the big winner. Oh, what happens if Hillary came? They would lose, whoever she's supporting. What happens if Obama comes? Well, then Obama might have to answer an embarrassing question. That's the reason he's going straight to Netflix. He's not quite ready for prime time television or for answering any questions. So it's typical. This is the Trump effect. This is the he's created a movement that we've never seen the like of in America.
The next tweet is all-time record of optimism. 95.1% of manufacturers have a positive outlook for their companies. And what did you want to say there?
That it used to be 0. Or it was very, 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 very low. That's an exaggeration. The point is, it's a historic high, and these are directly from the industries themselves. This is the second time he's posted this. Because why? The news won't post anything like this. I can't believe the news has no news. All it is just editorializing.
Okay, I know where you
their
were.
Venom. You knew where I was going with that, didn't you?
You were sitting there in the lobby, the waiting room of an auto dealership,
Correct.
waiting for your car to be repaired, and they had the channel on CNN.
Yes.
And you were forced to watch it.
Yes.
And now it's really on you.
And at first the game was, I'm going to say liar every time they lied. It was la 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 la. I couldn't say it fast enough, and then I turned it into a joke where every new lie I just laughed at because they don't believe it. They're not even smart enough to know what they're saying. This is just unreal.
It's bad. Okay, next one. We shouldn't be hiring judges by the thousands as our ridiculous immigration laws demand. We should be changing our laws, building the wall, hire border agents and ICE, and not let people come into our country based on the legal phrase they are told to say as their password.
And that legal phrase is told to them by lawyers from the ACLU, lawyers representing immigration concerns. And then we have to pay huge amounts of money for our lawyers to go down to actually represent us in a case against a felony who should have never come across the border to begin with. If we took all of that money that we've spent in all these years doing that, that'd probably be enough to build the border. And also, the most important thing here, he's making fun of Stormy Daniels' lawyer who went down there to be a lawyer to represent
Is that ridiculous?
the people coming across the border when he owes $10 million in taxes. He can't even represent himself. It's only because he's a lawyer that he's walking the streets free, representing a woman who was paid, and we know openly she was paid to tell these lies, and she gets more press than Melania. She gets more positive press than Melania. She gets more positive press when she refuses to do a striptease dance at a club and then says she's going to sue them than Melania gets when she goes to the border to see if it's true that this is going on.
The border has been a big mess and problem for many years. At some point, Schumer and Pelosi, who are weak on crime and border security, will be forced to do a real deal, so easy, that solves this long-time problem. Schumer used to want border security. Now he'll take crime.
Yes, he keeps pushing it back on Schumer because Schumer was the author of the previous immigration laws that couldn't get passed in totally Democratic Congress, Senate, and at the point that it was happening. And then later, Barack Obama inherited that. But it was Schumer who wrote the first Dreamer Act. And so he always includes him because he's basically a criminal. He writes the act to make sure that it never gets passed. And then what does he do? What has he said now? No matter what the bill is that comes out of the House, we will block it no matter what, even with a filibuster. In other words, he says, under no circumstances will I support any immigration change. And then he says the president simply needs to do what Obama did and write these deregulations and so on and so forth. No, Trump wrote an executive order that says I'm going to follow the law, not I'm going to break the law, or I'm going to create legal loopholes and enforce weird legal loopholes that were actually, it was a federal court in California, but they really don't apply. It's like the anchor baby concept. It's never really been contested and completely. It never finished going to the Supreme Court. It finally met a vote that was even, and it couldn't go forward. So we have never even answered these questions that concern immigration. Schumer doesn't want that. Pelosi doesn't want that. Unfortunately, Paul Ryan is doing it to try to stick a feather in his cap in case he tries to run against Trump or whoever runs in 2020 or later. He thinks this is going to be the feather in his cap to get amnesty because he knows that right there, that's 20 million illegal alien felon votes that he could get by getting that cap in his feather in his cap, and that's what he's trying to do.
Because, see, the globalists don't have a Republican contender against Trump, so they are getting Ryan out, going to make him all purdied up, and in a couple of years we'll forget about his evil, and then have him run against Trump.
Now, what he's saying here isn't this interesting, that he says he can force the two most ridiculous obstructionists I've ever seen in American history, that would be Schumer and Pelosi, into a deal. But what does he say before that? The leverage points he's going to use with them that he never lets up on. Crime and the border. This is my job. You two can't stop me from doing my job. You may control Congress. You can't stop me from stopping the crime and the border. I've already declared a national emergency, and if it takes it, I will declare war. Because there is a war going on. And unfortunately, it is supported by the Uniparty.
Next tweet. I will be going to the Columbia, South Carolina, yeah, that's what it says, on Monday night to do a campaign speech for one of my very early supporters, a man who truly loves the people of South Carolina, Governor Henry McMaster. Henry worked so hard and was so loyal to me that I look forward to reciprocating. And he also is going to mention Henry in a couple of these going forward. And I want to say to folks out there, this man is working 24/7 for the American people. I have no idea where he gets his stamina, but he's doing it for us. The least you can do in South Carolina is get up and go vote, and vote for the governor that Trump has asked you to vote for, because at this time in American history, we need all patriots to support the president.
Absolutely. Think of Terry McAuliffe, Virginia, founding member of the Clinton Foundation, the corruption, Uranium One. Is that the kind of governors we want? That's the kind of governors that are created. Listen to Trump. And even I want to give a shout out to all those Democratic governors that are going to go MAGA this year.
Yeah, that's right, because we say it's okay to be a Democrat and go for Trump. Henry McMaster has done a great job as governor of South Carolina. The state is booming with jobs and new industries setting records. He is tough on crime and strong on borders, health care, the military, our great vets. Henry has my full and complete endorsement, MAGA.
Always the same things. Trump is consistent. If these people get on board, who is going to say they support crime? Oh, that would be Pelosi and Schumer, and that's the reason they're on their way out. Who says they don't want borders? That would be the Uniparty, and that would be a bunch of illegal people who are trying to pass laws for us in what's supposed to be a legislation where laws are created, not destroyed. Who isn't for changing Obamacare and health care? Folks are paying $26,000 a year with $13,000 deductibles a year. That's where we're at. Thank you very much, Mr. Obama. Military, Obama had gutted it. And the vets, we all know how much he loves vets. So I want to just say to any politician out there, anyone who gets aboard the MAGA train is probably going to win. But it's not good enough just to get on the train. You need to follow through with the agenda. If you don't, he will tweet you out of your office. That's it. We've had it. Okay. Now the next one looks like a little afterglow here. Last night in Minnesota was incredible. What a crowd. And then the next tweet is, what is the purpose of the House doing good immigration bills when you need 9 votes by Democrats in the Senate and the Dems are only looking to obstruct, which they feel is good for them in the midterms? Republicans must get rid of the stupid filibuster rule. It is killing you. Oh, that's what I was just making reference to. Schumer, so this is Schumer's remark that, that they'll filibuster it no matter what. Are they going to get 9 votes from the Democrats in the Senate? No, you have none. They've already said all are voting 0 no matter what comes out of the Congress. So it is nothing more than political bandstanding, virtue signaling, and Paul Ryan trying to destroy the Republican Party, the Trump Republican Party. So he's basically saying, forget what you're doing in the House. It's just not going to work. It's just a complete political grandstanding, and it's nothing more than obstructionism that is saying and giving lip service, and it's completely rhetorical to the idea of creating a true renovation of our immigration system, which needs to happen completely. And we need to enforce what we have until they pass laws. Will they pass laws? No, they won't. And he's again saying, he didn't mention Schumer here, but let me tell you, he's saying Schumer is stupid. And now I've started using that word stupid because Trump used it before the election. I see it now. The more that we work on this stuff, these people are, I don't know, do you go into politics because you can't succeed anywhere else? Because these are not intelligent people we're dealing with. Their rat lines of crime, their path of perdition is as wide as it can possibly be. They're not careful. They're not even intelligent. All they are is just replicating the old systems of bureaucracy and institutions that have been around forever that are all about self-gratification. The next tweet is, Democrats want open borders where anyone can come into our country and stay. This is Nancy Pelosi's dream. It won't happen. That's what she said. She says it's not good enough. No children can be locked up, and no one at the border can be locked up. MS-13, no, come on in. Any kind of gang, come on in. Is that kind of like what she says about her house? I mean, will she just let anybody in her house? Pelosi's multi-million-dollar house that no one can figure out where she got that money and how she made so much money that she has in the bank. Is her door unlocked? Is that the house you're referring to? Yeah. No. It's like the Vatican, who says, again, just yesterday, everybody's wrong who doesn't really fall down at the feet of the refugees. We need to practically worship them. Okay, the Vatican hasn't taken in any refugees. Pelosi hasn't taken in any migrants. And I'm sure her house in no way is open to anyone that might be in need in her own district.
Okay, the last tweet for us today, and if you want to see this video, just go into the description box and check that link. My administration is acting swiftly to address the illegal immigration crisis on the southern border. Loopholes in our immigration laws are all supported by extremist, open-border Democrats, and that's what they are. They're extremist, open-border Democrats.
Extremists. We are now basically calling a spade a spade. He's calling, like, Islamic fascists, Islamic terrorism, radical Islamic terrorism, extremist Democrats who want to knock down our borders. Is this not, in fact, getting ready for war? He is basically saying that if you wish to be an extremist open border Democrat, you are breaking the law. If you wish to be a sanctuary city, a sanctuary state, you are breaking the law. Jeff Sessions has already said zero tolerance. That's also for sanctuary cities. So if they keep demanding that MS-13 needs to be let back out into the communities they're picked up in, catch and release, because they can't be, in fact, put in jail because they're not Americans. This is the logic of these people. No matter how many people they kill, no matter what crimes they do, they are immune. And this is what he is saying. So he's point blank calling them out. Pelosi, Schumer, you are extremist open border Democrats. You are demanding that the law be broken, and he's not going to stand for it. He's going to make sure that everyone knows that when you cross the southern border of America into America, it is illegal and you will be held to the law.